It's the Going Live song, and we're live. We're live. Yeah, we're live. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another scrupulous episode of the best darn show on the internet. What was the word? Freak show freak since 2023, everybody.
Oh my God.
Oh no, are you freezing again, Sharon? Oh, you're there.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. I
We're just having some. We were having some
I
discussions pre-show and we are just having some laughs. So anyway, we were just
I seem
discussing our
to have a
meeting.
good connection. Can you hear me and stuff?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, before the show, Sharon and I were just talking about our amazing audience. So thank you guys for joining us. We really do have the best. If even if it could be argued, maybe it's not the best show on the internet. Some people, whatever. We got the best darn audience uh
I think so.
on the internet, and I will die on that hill. I'll go to war if anyone tries to tell me they have a better audience. I will be like, no.
Sorry, I don't think so.
Our audience will meet your audience in a parking lot somewhere, and we'll have a nice off or a non-victim off. And let me
Yeah.
tell you, our audience isn't going to be victims. You're going to lose. No, anyway, I just like to talk smack. But no, I'm excited today because we're getting toward the end of our journey with the Tao, and it's really starting to like settle into me where I feel like I'm getting an upgrade here from this, some kind of wisdom upgrade, if you will, right? A little bit of,
Yeah.
and I was thinking about it last night, really, because I found this old pen in a briefcase I had that I gave to Elizabeth because she wanted to use it for something. So I was going through some things, had some personal effects. I was telling Sharon I had my discharge papers. So I got out of the Marine Corps in 1998, and you still have a commitment. It's like a total 8-year commitment. You do 4 years active or whatever. And when my thing ran out, I got out in 98, but I was still technically in active reserve, but it ran out in 2002 on 02/02/2002. So these numbers have always been following me. And I was an aircraft mechanic for 3 years and 3 months. That's what it said on the. So, it's so funny. 33. And I never noticed it back then. I was just like, oh, yeah, that's weird. Or I was like, that's normal. But anywho, we're on this. What was I was talking about something before that and I got sidetracked. Oh yeah, before the
Some
show we were talking about our lovely audience or whatever, basically, I guess, right?
yeah, but you were saying you were giving your discharge. I mean, you were giving
Oh yeah, the that's right.
Elizabeth your
I
briefcase or
had a
whatever.
pen. So I found this old cross pen. Do I have it here? No, it's really cool though. It's like a little gold pen and it writes really well. And it's probably been sitting in there, for like
For
20 years
ages.
maybe, since 2005 or 6.
Wow.
And so it writes still. And so anyway, I found this pad and I was going to do some writing and I started to write in this pad. I already had some doodles. So I wrote, those who know don't talk, whatever. And I was thinking about that. And it really goes to what we say all the time with recognizing that everyone has their own worldview. And when you go further, everyone kind of has their own reality. They have their own reality tunnel. And who are you to try to tell them, that they're wrong?
Yeah,
Because from their
Brandon, who are you?
Brandon Bonanza. Me llamo Brandon.
Mm.
Tenemos una fiesta. So, yeah, so basically it's really about trying to communicate this message in a way that you're not saying it. That's why I think art is so amazing, right? Art is the tarot, whatever, poetry, music, all these ways to communicate these messages to people instead of just trying to say, "Hey, wake up." What are you doing with your life? No, you don't want to shake people out of their sleep. You want to try to lull them out of it with some art or some music or whatever. And that's kind of what we do with this podcast. Of course, we are advanced on this podcast, our topics, because we could totally offend a lot of people with some of the stuff we talk about. But normally our superpower is to bore them before that, and they turn it off before they get offended. And the people who stick around love it. So that's, I think, how we were able to cultivate such an amazing audience. So I just want to give a shout out to our audience and, this Dow series that we've been doing. Super excited that it's getting to the close of it.
Yeah. I wanted to say something that you made me think of when you're talking about this concept of not speaking, right? This silence is golden concept. Um because I've been r- listening to slash reading the book. by Robert Monroe called Far Journeys, which is the second book in his, I guess I would call it a trilogy of books about out of body experiences. And like, if Journeys Out of the Body was good, but Far Journeys is like ridiculous. Like everything that is talked about in there is just like mind blowing. Um, and there's a part in Far Journeys where he's starting to talk about um this concept of mind speaking, using your mind, telepathically speaking to these other entities. Like, so when you're out of body, he's like, you might want to talk, you might think you might want to talk, but words can't even express sometimes. So, um, you use your mind to communicate and they understand. It's just, it's mind blowing to me, but I'm really enjoying listening and reading that book. And I'm sure I'm gonna enjoy reading the next one too after that. But maybe one day we can dedicate some time to talk about it if Brandon wants to listen and read the book too.
Yeah, that sounds
Books,
like an
maybe.
idea. I like that concept, and especially what you're saying about not speaking, because, I'm sure you realize this, but it's like, you don't have to just be out of your body to communicate non-verbally with people or your surroundings, because I
Yes.
feel like, it's
Body
just this,
language, all kind of other stuff. Your
yeah,
energy already communicates a lot of that stuff. That's why it's like they talk about like magnetizing, like Joe talks about the iron filings and stuff, like whatever is attracted to you is because of your energy. So, and I hate to say things like, oh, it's karma, but like sometimes, like when things happen to people, it just, it is, and it's something that you need to see at that moment. And you just have to take it as, okay, what is the universe trying to tell me right now? If something happened and you're just like, this is terrible. Why is this happening to me right now? You have to be able to look at it and in a objective, can I say it that way? Like get yourself out of the situation and then look at it and be like, okay,
objectively.
could why could this be happening? Right. And always know that it's always happening for a purpose, for a reason, and for your good. Because even if it looks bad, it could be helping you, it could be showing you something. Um, anyway, we talk about this all the time on the show. So thank you all for
Yeah,
being here
that's, yeah, exactly. This is what we talk
and
about.
listening to my TED talk.
What's that?
Listening to my TED talk.
Yeah, my TED Talk, exactly. We're doing a Theodore talk because ours are more formal. We're doing a Theodore talk today. I was saying that the other day because I said TED Talk. I just like now my
Oh
brain just
God.
goes immediately to puns or like, soliloquy or alliteration or what, it's I don't know. It's a curse and a blessing. Um, I think I was going to say something, but that's all right. What's up, everybody? I'm going to say a shout out to the chat. What's up, MS? John
Yes.
Chase.
He says he's all caught up on our show now, so he's here live. Thank you, John.
Oh, sweet. Nice and present. I like it. All right.
Yeah.
Well,
So did you want to read the quote for the day?
yeah, we probably should do that, huh? La la la. All right, today's quote is a quote that I first heard in a Public Enemy song, and the way they said it was like freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitude. Public Enemy number one. Like it was this. So Frederick Douglass, freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitude. And this popped into my head today because I was looking at some quotes and I thought of that song for some reason. And that quote, and I looked it up. And now I think a lot of people think this would have to do with slavery in like the 1800s and the Civil War and all this stuff. And, but if you really break down what he's saying, freedom is a road seldom traveled by the multitude, right? So he's saying everybody, like just like in the Tao, right? That's why I wanted to tie it in because in the Tao, it's like, most people don't do this. Like, the master is this way or whatever, but most people they don't do it this way, or it's that's the hard way or whatever. So that's what it kind of reminds me of because in my mind, if you just look at those words without any context or history propaganda or whatever that is, without any motive, if you just look at it, what he's saying freedom is a road traveled. Traveled sounds to me like a free will decision of something to do. Like I'm gonna go travel freedom. He's not saying that most people are brutally enslaved against their will, right? That's not what he's saying. He's saying freedom is a road that's traveled, is seldom traveled by the multitude. So it really goes back and it makes me also think of these terms like a cult. And people say, what's a cult mean? A cult means hidden. And then they're like, oh, there's this evil cabal and, Hans fucking Gruber, or no, what's his Hans Gruber. All right, whatever. You guys get it. All those big names, Bill Gates or whatever, right? They're like the heads of these cabals and they're keeping this information secret. Or could it be this information is hidden in plain sight because people are still in the dream and they haven't waken up yet? They haven't awoken. They're not awake to these ideas or they just don't care. It's not interesting to them because they're still materialistic and they're still in a different phase of their spiritual development, which is fine, right? But they're hiding it from themselves. And then sometimes people have an awakening. They come across this information and they're like, "Whoa, this is great. I'm gonna not be a victim. I'm gonna learn about myself, all these things." And that's more what I'm talking about. So I feel like that's what Frederick Douglass is really saying here. No matter what any history commentator will tell you he's trying to say, just look at his words. I think that's why he kept it. When there's a quote that's passed down this long and it lasts that long and it's so simple, I think people really think about it before they write it down or say it in a speech or whatever, because they're like, this thing's going to be more, immortalized. So he keeps it so simple. So don't be fooled by the propaganda. But anyway, so I think if you want to really be a true free person, one good way to do it is follow the Tao. Listen to the Sharon show, huh? No, but just going down these rabbit holes of self-exploration and you'll be freer every day. What do you think?
Yeah. I like that he uses the word freedom. A lot of people out there use the word liberty, and I don't like that word. I don't know why. I guess I got turned off by it because of the whole sovereignty movement and stuff. And I think maybe liberty was what would you call it? Like stained with this like meaning of like being like a fake form of freedom, but it's like what they tell you freedom is, but it really isn't, because it's like liberty comes with duties and obligations or something like that.
It's a great
Some
point. Well,
something like
even
that.
in the Marine Corps, when they gave us time off, it was called Liberty. Like, oh, we get Liberty this weekend. Yeah, so
Yeah, but you're really not
you really
free.
want liberty? It's just permission to do what you
Yeah,
want.
liberty is just
Yeah.
permission.
Well, that's
It's
the
a
thing.
permission slip.
Yeah, it's a permission slip. Liberty's just a permission slip. Sounds like a country song. Written by a libertarian. Yeah. But yeah, I think that's a great distinction because the word freedom, yes, that's what it means, right? Free, dumb, like,
Yeah.
but it also does. So with liberty, there are duties, but with freedom, there are responsibilities, personal responsibilities, to yourself and to your loved ones and to the ones around you. So it's a much different concept, but it's like an inversion, right? So some people can handle it, some people can't, some people are in between, like probably a lot of us. In this country. So, but it's a good place to be a free person in this country. I think it is like not everyone is free, but if you are conscious and you want to be a free person, this is a good place that I think you can get away with mostly being a free person. And as long as you focus on what you're grateful for, that's all that really matters.
I concur.
Like my lovely baby.
Um, Beautiful. So I pulled a card from the I Ching today, which we have not done in a long time. And I know that I've heard that when you do the I Ching, it's more about um, pulling two cards, I guess, and finding the changes because it's called the Book of Changes, I guess. But I I don't feel like I need to do that to pull. I just pull a card, just like I pulled up a card. So we're just pulling one. It's the Wanderer, number 56. And it makes me think of Jesus, the
Oh,
Wanderer. I was
Jesus.
just
I'm gonna pin you and then be quiet so you can put it back up.
oh,
Sorry. But yeah, I wanted people to see.
yeah. So I mean it's just very abstract art on these
Yeah,
cards. But
like waves.
I can read the little intro to that reading. It's called The Wanderer, Fire Above, Mountain Below. Seasoned travelers know that special decorum is called for when venturing far from home. Wow. This makes me think of the book Far Journeys by Robert Monroe
Yeah,
that I was just talking about.
crazy.
They must develop a more yielding personality so that their local contact or host can open doors and pave the way. Inwardly, the wanderer knows that it is sometimes difficult to discern the intentions of strangers. Discern? Weren't we just freaking talking about like not speaking and like telepathy,
Yeah,
whatever?
yeah. Silence is golden, right? That's what I was gonna say.
Mm. Um, so inwardly, the wanderer knows that it's sometimes difficult to discern the intentions of strangers. Are they hostile or friendly or merely opportunistic? The twin houses of mystery and discovery rule any journey we take. Each new day is launched on a fresh landscape, one that reaches out to grab our attention. Travel is a great teacher and a great equalizer. There is an art to living on the road. Increased caution and discernment become the keys not only to success, but to survival. If you are entering a new environment, be sincere, flexible, and undemanding rather than stubborn. Duh. Get rid of attitudes and habits that could encumber you or make you too conspicuous. I like that word, conspicuous. But I always forget what it means because I think of the word inconspicuous. And I'm like, wait, which conspicuous means that you're obvious, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Extra spictuous.
I just
Sorry.
always think of this quote, and I forget which movie it's from, but he's like, it's not as if he's income freaking conspicuous. It's like a British guy.
Apparently. Oh,
Anyway,
that's Australia.
the onset of
Was that Train Spotting or whatever, one of those movies?
no, maybe it is, but it's
Lock, Stock, and Two
Lock,
Smoking
Stock,
Barrels.
and Two Smoking Barrels. I think it's
Yeah,
that one. Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels. Like, yeah.
Barrels.
Anyway, the onset of a great journey is not a favorable time to enter into binding agreements. What were we just talking about? Wow, interesting. Or to start new enterprises. And though being the wanderer offers you a certain freedom from being judged by your history, you also have no history to fortify you. Pay close attention to local customs and honor them. Hmm.
I like that. When in Rome,
Yeah,
you act as the Romans.
true. Interesting. Well,
So,
that was the card for the day.
lovely. Oops, when I hit the wrong button. Hang on, I changed my mouse over. There we go. All right. Involuntary finger spasms sometimes. Oh, look at that, huh? So this grow light goes on all by itself. I can actually cover it.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, this thing is uh it's called the Arrow Garden. It's really cool. Like it has 6 spots in these little soil pods that go in the water, and I guess they're non-GMO, organic, whatever. And you could just get the pods and put your own seeds in it or whatever. It's pretty crazy though. Grows fast. It
Nice.
just got herbs though, so yeah.
Sweet.
S- I like that card though, again with the journeys, because it's kind of like this is journey with the Tao is coming to an end, right?
Oh, yeah, very
So
true.
I also just want to skip ahead really quick and look at these verses. Okay, they don't look too long. Cool. Because I was gonna
Are
maybe
you pressed for time?
no, no, no. I know when I said that, I'm like, it sounds like I'm pressed for time. No, because I was thinking about pulling a card myself. Hang on, let me grab this. All right. So I have, you guys probably remember the Aleister Crowley Tarot. So it's not the Thoth deck, it's this one
Oh,
that this guy did, this lady did, Tanya.
crazy.
Uh
I forgot you had something like that.
Hassan, yeah. The guy, so it's basically it's based off of Aleister Crowley's deck, but it's an interpretation of it. So it's really
Hmm.
cool. So let us pull a card. Yikes. Ooh, the star was on top just sitting there. That's cool. All right.
I just want to say I'm excited about like closing this Dow stuff out because not this episode, but the next time we do a Dow episode will it'll be our last one because we're going to cover one excuse me, one verse 81. And I have, because I was like studying a little bit, looking into stuff to write like a little translation for myself of the Tao. Um, I was looking into a bunch of stuff and stuff that we talked about in the intro episode about the Tao, which at first didn't make sense to me. And anyway, I ended up looking it up, and I want to talk about some of the things I found because I think it will help kind of close it up and close up some loose ends. So
No,
I'm
I think
excited.
that's a great idea for sure. All right. I had to turn our pyramid scheme on. I realized it wasn't on. I
Oh
was like, oh
God,
no. Pyramid
our
scheme.
pyramid scheme.
All right. So oh, all right. So I pulled the Princess of Discs, which is pretty cool because we've seen a lot of discs lately. I'll just say that in my house. So it's cool.
Pentagrams, pentacles,
Yeah, Pentacle.
discs, earth.
So it's similar to the Crowley one, but there's this altar there. So I could read, let me see what it says in here if it's a long explanation or not. Or I mean, yeah, no, it's not too bad. Okay. So Princess of Discs. The Princess of I open right to it. I mean, there's a bunch of cards on each page, but I did open to the page with it on there. That's interesting.
Nice.
The Princess of Discs, the last card of the court cards, represents the earthly part of Earth. She is consequently on the brink of transfiguration, strong and beautiful, with an expression of intense brooding. She is on the precipice of becoming aware of a great and secret wonder. Her crest is the head of the ram, and her scepter descends into the earth. She is a priestess of Demeter. She holds within her body the secret of the future. The disc which she holds as a shield shows the rose of Isis, the great fertile mother. She contains all the characteristics of woman, and it would depend entirely upon the influences to which she is subjected whether one or another becomes manifest. Now, this is a quote, by the way, that I'm reading. I don't know if this last part is a quote from Crowley. Anywho, but in every case, her attributes will be pure in themselves and not necessarily connected with any other attributes, which in the normal way one regards as symbolic. Oh, so it's very mysterious, it seems. So it may indicate a pregnancy or it may indicate the manifestation of a long-held dream, the act of creation itself. That's crazy because it's kind of the end of this thing, so it's like a creation of this thing we put out there, right? I don't know.
Right. That's what I was thinking the whole time you were reading. I was like, wow, it's because like we're ending the Tao series, and it's like you're coming to this place where it's like when you think of a baby being born, it's like come to full term. So this is like the full term, coming to full term of the Tao series, right?
Yeah, yeah, amazing, right? We just broke our water. Ah. And it's a watery subject, right? The Tao is very
Yeah.
hilarious. All right. So
QSB,
let's
welcome.
who?
QSB.
Oh, what's up, QSB? Just checking in, crushing on. Yes, we are crushing. I have a new setup. We got our pyramid scheme in full effect, but I was able to set my Mac Mini and I have a monitor lift and all this stuff now, so it's much better for my neck. I'm like, yeah, I could don't have to really lay down. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Good.
and I still have this cool standing chair, so I'm like, yeah, I could do this. I could podcast for hours like this, like
Nice.
standing, kind of sitting, and I can move positions. Anyway, this isn't a commercial for morelawsmoreproblems.com, everybody. It's a website, 11, 12 years and running now.
It's
12 years.
it's 1, 2, 3, 4 here. 1234.
Ooh, it's 234 here. 234. The
Yeah.
one is occulted here. The one is occulted in the Eastern time zone. Yeah, so check out More Laws, More Problems, the Oversharing tab. Click on it for all your overshare needs. The audio podcast, if you don't want to watch our video, or if you're on the go and you like podcasts, we're in Podbean, so you can find us everywhere there. And yeah, so that's the little commercial at the beginning. I try to do those if I remember. All right, so we're gonna get right into the Dow. If you're new to our show or the Dow series, welcome. Thank you so much for hanging out. We have four different versions of the Tao Te Ching, which is a Chinese spiritual text attributed to Lao Tzu. And we're on verse 79. We have four different interpretations, and one of them is actually by Aleister Crowley. So if you stick around, you can hear that. How mind-blowing is that? The first verse, so what we do is we read each verse, we take turns, and then after we read and break down. So we're just going to go read through. Stephen Mitchell from 1988. Future is an opportunity, or sorry, failure is an opportunity. If you blame someone else, there is no end to the blame. Therefore, the master fulfills her own obligations and corrects her own mistakes. She does what she needs to do and demands nothing of others.
Dude, what were you saying at the beginning of the episode that we're not victims?
Yeah.
This is so apropos. Anyway, I like this verse.
Anyway, yeah.
Dwight Goddard from 1919 entitles verse 79 Enforcing Contracts. When reconciling great hatred, there will some remain. How can it be made good? Therefore, the wise man accepts the debit side of the account and does not have to enforce payment from others. They who have virtue or day keep their obligations. They who have no virtue insist on their rights. Tao of heaven has no favorites, but always helps the good man.
Love it. All right, I gotta keep my mouth shut because I'm gonna talk about it. So Stan Rosenthal from 1984, fulfilling one's obligations. When covenants and bonds are drawn between the people of the land that they might know their obligations, it is commonplace for many to fail to meet their dues. The sage ensures his dues are met, though not expecting others to do the same. In this way, he is virtuous. He is without virtue of his own, who asks of others that they fulfill his obligations on his behalf. The way of nature does not impose on matters such as these, but stays with the good forever and acts as their reward. Are you still there? Uh-oh. Did we lose Sharon, everybody? Oh,
Oh,
you can mute.
shoot. I had my mute on because I was clearing my throat. Hold on. Give me a second.
No worries. Yeah, I mean, it's
All
better
right.
than losing you, so. Because I
I'm
only had one little
sorry.
window here.
Can you hear me now?
Sorry. Yes. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Sorry. Aleister Crowley from 1918 and titles verse 79. Truth in covenant. When enemies are reconciled, there's always an aftermath of ill will. How can this be useful? Therefore, the wise man, while he keepeth this part of the record of a transaction, doth not insist on its prompt execution. He who hath the day considereth the situation from all sides, while he who hath it not seeketh only to benefit himself. In the Tao of heaven, there is no distinction of persons in its love, but it is for the true man to claim it. Wow.
Oh boy. And who said that? Allegedly, Aleister Crowley made that interpretation, you know? So,
Yeah. And it sounds biblical to me, honestly.
yeah. Love him or hate him, he's definitely a polarizing character, you know? So, all right. Well, I guess we can go to the breakdown because I'm very itching to talk about this.
I know, me too.
La 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 la. All right. Stephen Mitchell, excuse me, everybody, from 1988. Failure is an opportunity. Look at that, huh? And you know what I want to say about this verse? This is like high level stuff, right? We're at verse 79. There's only two more verses after this. Like Lao Tzu is like, I really got to step it up. This is, they've been going for 78 verses now. I'm really going to lay it down on them. Failure is an opportunity. If you told somebody that in the beginning, they might be like, what? But now, after listening to all our lovely episodes and going through these, you can figure it out. Failure is an opportunity. If you blame someone else, there is no end to the blame, you know?
Mm,
He's not saying you shouldn't blame somebody else or it's bad to. He's just saying if you do it, there's no end
it's
to the
just going to go
blame.
on and on and on.
Yeah.
It never ends.
Do you want to go through the whole thing or piece by piece? What do you think?
Um, this one's short enough. I think we could just
Okay.
what do you think?
Yeah, I think so, for sure. Therefore, the master fulfills her own obligations and corrects her own mistakes. Now, if you're new, we talked about how he uses her as much as he uses him. So it's kind of just a balance thing.
Hmm.
But I like what he's saying here, right? So the master, and we've talked about this concept, it's not a judgmental thing, but if you want to aspire to be a master, then what he's telling you is you fulfill your own obligations and correct your own mistakes, which just means to me that you just it's really about being free, right? What we were talking about earlier in this episode about the quote is personal responsibility as much as you can in many areas. So I think that's when you start to do that, that's when you're free because then you're not depending on other sources. Now it's okay to be dependent on other sources. You don't have to be this, we're not saying you have to be this totally independent person and totally self-sustained and all this stuff. But we're more talking about spiritually too, right? And inward. So they're saying that you don't have to go to some spiritual master too, right, to tell you what the deal is or what's wrong inside. You can use your own intuition to correct it yourself. And I think that's the deeper message here. That's the esoteric message. Could it be?
Yeah. Um, what was I gonna say? Fulfilling her own obligations and correcting her own mistakes. Yeah. You can do it.
Yeah, and when it comes to that spiritual realm, it's simple, it's hard, but it's simple. And you don't need to buy any books or do anything. You could just sit home and I was talking about meditation with my lovely, amazing woman, and we do some guided meditations, and I was saying how, the real secret is you get a mantra or whatever, and like the transcendental kind of stuff, or you just sit in a quiet room with nothing. I'm like, that's when you're able to, because starting off with the guided meditations for me was great. Everybody starts where they have to, but it was perfect. But when you can get to a point when you just let go, it's like the handrails, it's like the training wheels, and you let go of the training wheels. That's when it really
Yes.
super, and that's the silence that we were talking about in the beginning too. It's silence where you slow down your chatter. Anywho, yeah, so it's
Yeah.
all back coming back to silence.
I like this concept of doing what you need to do and not demanding anything from others too. Like,
Yeah.
why do you need to demand something from someone else? Can you not do it for yourself? Or are you feeling like a victim?
Yeah, and again, it doesn't mean you can't accept help or have
Yeah.
people help you out and stuff. It's just like,
It's the
how are
demand
you
part.
looking at it? Yeah, is
Yeah.
it like I'm owed this stuff?
Yeah.
I'm marginalized
Owed
because
reparations. Just kidding.
yeah, yeah, to bring it back to the thanks you too for giving us a platform. We love you. I'm a comedian, we're joking here.
We're riffing.
Anyway. No, but yeah, it is the same thing no matter what your brand of victim is or group you identify with. That's why, we talk about these reality tunnels and creating your own reality for yourself with your attention, because we talk about how attention is is the highest form of currency in this realm, could it be? So if you're identifying with a group and that group is based off a victim narrative or a victim, they have something in common. It's a victim thing. There's plenty of groups that are great to be a part of. Like if you're a bird watcher or, you like Wheel of Time or Dune or something, and you want to share these things. But when you're part of a group and that's what you identify as, and there's a victim element to it, that's all we're talking about, and there's a
Yeah.
lot of them. Don't worry, everybody could find one to identify with if they'd like.
It reminds me of the book, The Five Levels of Attachment by Don Miguel Reese Jr., the son of Don Miguel Reese, who wrote The Four Agreements. But yeah, the five levels of attachment's really good because he's talking about this um kind of level of like how you attach to certain things in your life. Groups, for example, like sports. Like, are you the type that's gonna go to a game and just be like, I'm just enjoying this. Like, I don't care who wins. I'm just having a good time. It's beautiful weather. It's a great day to be out, having popcorn at the baseball game or whatever. Are you just like that, or are you a little bit more attached than that, and like, oh no, I really want this team to win. I think it would be really cool if my team won or whatever. Or are you a little bit more, a little bit more, a little bit more? Like the fifth level is where you're just like, my team better win or else. And it's like, are you that attached to something, to anything, to a group, to a church, to a club, to anything,
Is
you
that
know?
where he uses the example of the one sports fan that ran over the other one in the stadium parking lot or whatever?
Maybe.
Because he had the other shirt on. Yeah, that's the high level of attachment. It's like he's at the Halo, the game Halo for anyone who used to play that. He's at that level of attachment. He's like, run him over.
Yeah.
Crazy. But yeah, I mean it's but again, it's just what's up, Dell Paxson? The Dell Paxson. It's just another cycle, another challenge for people to overcome, just like we have our own challenges. So that's why we try not to judge because we all have our own challenges and we all have our own blind spots and we're
And we're
all,
just preaching to the choir and
we're all,
ourselves.
yeah, we're all perfect to that degree. I feel like yeah. Anyway, I see this is the thing. If you believe in God, then if you believe they're in God, like even the Christian, whatever lens, then it's automatically assumed that we're perfect. Like people don't realize they can't put it together. But like I said to a guy once at a barber shop that I used to go to in the hood when I used to get my mohawk and all fun stuff, there's this they used to love me and they're, oh man, could you just imagine? Because I always speak my mind. So we used to have great conversations, but there was this older gentleman in there and he was complaining about the way things were. And I was just like, I probably told the story before, but I'm like, hey, you believe in God, right? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, you believe God created everything, right? Yeah. Okay. And God's perfect, right? Yeah. And I'm like, well, doesn't that mean we're perfect then? Then it's all perfect. If he created the world, then he's like, what? Ah, and he like ran out of there. I'm like, yeah.
It's hard to believe.
Yeah.
for people,
No, I get it. There's a lot, and
including ourselves.
that's why we make the distinction between the physical and the spiritual, right? In the spiritual lens, you can look at it as all perfect because you can't, it's a mystery. And if you believe in God and there's a creator, then it's happening for some reason. But on the physical, yeah, it's terrible. There's suffering and all these things going on. But you could look at it as, again, that's the challenges that they're overcoming. And you can have compassion for them. Yeah, without feeling like a victim because of it. That's basically what we're saying.
Yeah.
But
Anyway,
yeah,
shall we
every day
read
there's
Dwight?
so many
Hmm?
terrible things going on. I said every day there's so many terrible
Yeah, well, let
things.
me speak to that real quick since
Yeah.
you said that. Spoons the other day posted something about like stoicism. This guy was talking about like how to be a stoic or how to stoically think about something. And when we're talking about stoicism, we're talking about people like Marcus Aurelius and those kind of guys. I don't remember some of the other names associated with it, but Marcus Aurelius is definitely one of the major Stoics. And he was like, okay, if you want to think like a Stoic, and I didn't watch the whole video, I just watched that little bit because I got distracted. But the first thing he said about it was like, okay, what a Stoic would do is like, can you are that there's like terrible things going on in the world or whatever, but can you just focus on what you can do something about? Like, can you change what's going on, 3,000 miles away or, however many thousands of miles away? Can you change what's going on there? Like, so should you have to worry about it? If you can't change it, then don't let it uh be something that you're worried about, right? Yeah, of course, we feel sorry for people who are going through a lot of terrible things. But if the only thing you can do to change something is work on yourself and help your children, I mean, that's all you can do. So focus on those things, right? And that was like it was kind of like a duh moment, like why are people getting so worked up and worried about all these things they cannot possibly even change? And I know that's a very polemic thing to talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, it could be very polarizing when looked at in the wrong way, but I think it sounds good to me. All right, let's get back to the
Dwight Goddard.
let's do it. Yeah. There you go.
All right, verse 79, Dwight Goddard from 1919 entitles us Enforcing Contracts. Enforcing contracts. We were
Oh,
talking about the sovereignty movement earlier, so it made me think of this.
yeah.
Interesting. I didn't remember that this is what we were going to be talking about today. Anyway, when reconciling great hatred, there will some remain. So when you're trying to reconcile whatever, something that you hate, right? It's not going to go away like right away. It's like some of that disdain or that, you know, uh what other words mean hate? Abhorrence are gonna be there. They're gonna remain a little bit of it. So you can't he's like saying you can't extinguish it completely, right? But how can it be made good? How can you make it better? How can you deal with that? Therefore, the wise man accepts the debit side of the account and does not have to enforce payment from others. So I think this has, like, if I look at this, it makes me think of forgiveness, right? So let's say he's talking about somebody owing something, right? So let's just say somebody owes you or somebody a good amount of money, a good chunk of change. And this wise man is going to be like, okay, this person owes me X amount and it's a good, chunk of change. But you know what? I will just cut my losses, and I will accept that this is what happened and how it happened. And I'm not going to enforce the payment from this person. Not for
Yeah.
them, but for me.
Yeah.
Because why am I going to sit here and berate myself and be upset because why I lent this person all this money and I should have known they weren't going to pay me back and blah 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 blah. I speak from experience. um from having had things like this happen to me before, but I had to just let things go because um there was really nothing else I could do. And so it taught me to just be more careful about that going forward. So it became like a just a lesson for me to learn how to be how shall you say discerning of people and things like that, and when to lend and when not to, and things like that. But anyway, that's not the point. um you're doing it for yourself so that you don't have hatred and animosity and anger towards somebody. So okay, it says they who have a virtue keep their obligations. So the person who isn't keeping that obligation clearly is having some issues with virtue, shall we say. And that's just how it is, it's just, it is what it is. um and people like that, it says they who have no virtue insist on their rights. So someone who behaves that way is going to be like, well, I didn't owe you in the first place, you just gave it to me, and it's your fault for giving me this money, and blah blah blah, right? People like that aren't going to be very kind. They're never going to want to pay you back. And so there's no point, right? You might as well just
Yeah.
cut your losses and just be like, you know what, it is what it is. It's um so anyway, Tao of heaven has no favorites, but always helps the good man. So if you are this wise man and you do forgive, and you do genuinely forgive, you're not like um demanding this person to pay you back all the time, right? You're just like, you know what? That's it. It is what it is. And it's okay for you to be like, oh, I'm definitely never going to do that again, right? With that person, or I'm definitely going to keep my eyes open for people like that. But um it says the Tao of heaven has no favorites, but always helps the good man. Well, then the Tao of heaven will help you. um
Yeah.
and it could just be that it helps you by letting you learn to grow and learning that experience so that maybe you won't fall into that trap again at some point. I don't know, what do you think about this verse?
Well, here I'll bring it back to us now. I do like what you said, and I think it's a really good, straightforward interpretation. I just want to add a couple things. It kind of reminds me of just going with the flow. Like, somebody asks you for money, they seem like they're a friend and all that stuff. You give money, and then you just leave it up to the universe and up to
Yeah,
God.
right.
I heard like Ram Dass used to say or
Absolutely.
whatever, it's not my money, it's God's money kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So doesn't mean you have to be crazy and give away all your money. But like you said, the attachment, it's the attachment inside that you're letting go of.
True.
And then you can use your
Yeah.
discernment, and you could know that just because I gave that money out and this person isn't giving it back to me, it'll come back in another way. And maybe that person needed it more than I did. God
Yeah.
decided it that way.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I feel sometimes when I play poker. If I go play a tournament or whatever, and especially if I get really close to the end but don't make any money, sometimes it happens. I think about it that way. Like, there's a reason for it, and I'm just gonna go with it
There
and
is.
check yourself. But that doesn't mean that I won't go back and analyze how I played. I think this is a good analogy, kind of, or whatever it is. You could still learn from the past. You don't have to just be like,
Absolutely.
whatever, it doesn't matter, because then at that point, it's like you're going too far the other way, right?
Hmm.
So you're like, all right, what did I do wrong? That's cool. It's still perfect. I did this wrong. so I could do this to be, because
So I
it
could
changes
learn.
the whole course of your day or whatever. So yeah, it's just another way to look at it. And then back to the verse, they they who have virtue keep their obligations, they who have no virtue insist on their rights. I think that quote itself is really amazing.
Mm.
You could just take that because you think about people who insist on their rights, and it's funny because there's people like the Patriot movement, all these things that people are insisting on their rights. And what is he saying? People could be like, oh, he's just telling you to be a slave because it was a religion invented by the Chinese government. They just wanted to keep people docile. Maybe, but you could also look at it in the spiritual way. And you could be like, you know what? I could try to get my rights in the physical, but if I don't, there's a reason. This is my challenge that I have to overcome. Do they really take my rights away and give them to me? Can I still what can I still do?
Absolutely.
You just do what you can do and not cause waves. You go with the Tao kind of thing.
Right. You go with the flow. Absolutely. So like very good point about that whole like patriot sovereignty movement, whatever that, because I do see that whole like insisting of their rights type thing going on. And it's like I maybe that's what turned me off about it and I stepped back because it was like I don't have to do that. Like why do I have to like put signs up and put things on here and there and like say this is this and this is XYZ and you know you're trespassing or you're this that and the other and I'm this that and the other. It's like why do I have to do that? Why can't I just embody what I believe about myself, that I am a creation of the creator and I have inalienable, unalienable, whatever the hell you want to pronounce it,
Yeah.
rights. But I can do that with my own energy and just be without having to proclaim something, right? And insist on it and demand, right? Um, and in many ways, that's how I walked freely in the year of the nonsense when I just walked through grocery stores and other stores freely, um, doing my thing, not bothering anybody. And it was only the times perhaps that maybe I had a little bit of insistence or a little bit of fear or whatever. And that's when I was confronted. But that only happened one time.
Yeah. It's a great,
Yeah.
great example. I mean, it really is. It's all about kind of reality tunnels because when you're in those movements and you're dedicating a lot of time and attention to it, what did we say earlier? It's like your attention, right? So you're in that reality tunnel, and also you could be putting a target on your back because you're kind of letting the government know. You're like, hey, I'm one of these people. Like, hi, it's yeah, you think you have all these rights and stuff, but how many times has the government just like stop boot down on people like that? Like wake up. I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying that's going to happen or whatever, but they're at the end of the day, it's a government, and we all know what government means. So who knows?
Gubernare.
Gubernare. Everyone's got their own way. It's just like spirituality. We can't tell you what to do. But I feel like when you get involved with groups like that, you can learn stuff, and maybe it is the way. But I feel like the target comes to and your attention again. That's the other thing. You're building the reality tunnel for that group more than you are for yourself.
And the egregore.
Yeah, is real. The egregore is real.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not going to say that
Is
word again.
Ra El.
Is yeah.
Just kidding. So Tao of Heaven has no favorites, but always helps good men. I like the Tao of Heaven has no favorites, but I'll get into that next on
Breakdown.
Aleister Crowley's verse.
All right, cool. Yeah, it makes sense. So Stan Rosenthal, fulfilling one's obligations when covenants and bonds are drawn between the people of the land, that they might know their obligations, it is commonplace for many to fail to meet their dues. So basically, what he's
Mm.
saying is there's people who are going to break the law. Like whenever you have a law or covenant or a
Or
bond or
break
an
the contract.
agreement or contract, a social contract, there's going to be people that break it, right? That's basically what he's saying. So that's a fact, right? So then he's saying the sage ensures his dues are met, though not expecting others to do the same. So basically, what we've heard in the
Mm.
past two verses,
Hmm.
you just take care of yourself and you let God do the rest, is what they're saying,
Yeah.
really, right?
Yeah. It's God's money, you guys.
In this way, he is virtuous. Yeah, it's just energy anyway. It's just a currency.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, in this way, he is virtuous. He is without virtue of his own, who asks of others that they fulfill his obligations on his behalf. So he's saying basically what they're saying, just in a more wordy way, you have no virtue if you're asking other people for your money or whatever it is that they owe you. He's like,
Yeah.
just like God. And again, like Sharon said, it's not, it's more about you, how you feel in your own spiritual wellness and goodness. It's like just that shit go.
Yeah. I
Um,
like that he is without virtue of his own who asks of others that they fulfill his obligations on his behalf. So he's like, if you're saying, hey, go do this for me because I can't do it, um, you're you're without virtue of your own because you're having other people go fulfill your obligations that you should be doing. Like, okay, let's just say, for example, if like you borrowed, thousands of dollars from this one person, and then you're like, oh, my mom's gonna help me pay that because I don't have the money, or my whatever is gonna help me pay it. Like, because you're putting it on someone else to do what you uh, put an obligation on yourself to do, and now you're just like not being virtuous because you're not fulfilling your end of the deal, right?
Yeah. Well, sometimes I think it's different with parents, because
Well, sorry,
I
I
mean, my
just said that
parents don't,
because
I love my parents, but they're not, helping me out. I get it.
right, right,
They have
right,
their own,
right.
but
I just
sometimes, no, you're right. As an example, no, you're totally right. But I'm always, because I kind of missed that with my interpretation. So good grab there with the whole,
well, the reason I bring it up is because I was talking to someone very recently who had a tenant that they stopped paying their rent on time and kept giving excuses like, "Oh, my mom's gonna help me, or my uncle, or my cousin, or my whatever. Somebody's gonna like help me with this." And um, yeah, it was just them basically reneging on their obligation and trying to make other people pay for their own, what they what they promised they would do, right? A contract on a lease,
yeah,
on a lease agreement.
yeah, no, that's tough. My parents used to own a property where they had renters, and it was a nightmare. And
Oh
not that it's
yeah.
always a nightmare, but I'm just saying they had bad experiences. They had a few
Oh,
good ones.
I was a landlord and I hated it. I never wanted to do it again. I
You were a
was like,
landlady.
no, yeah. Yeah,
I'm
yeah, I
just
was a landlady. I forgot.
no,
I forgot
I
there
know.
was a
I'm just
feminine version of that word.
well, it's funny. There's
No,
also
I
people
was a
who like
lord and I lorded it over people. I'm just kidding.
the Lord Almighty. There's people that hate landlords though too. They're like kill all landlords. It's like, dude,
Uh,
like there's an in between there. Like
yeah,
sometimes landlords are dirtbags, but sometimes they're just a cool dude who's got an Airbnb. Like you're gonna
yeah,
kill that guy, then you can't go
yeah.
stay on the lake, you idiot. What's wrong with you? Yeah, but you know what it is? These things sound so good, but they don't take them out to their logical conclusions. It's all right. We've all been young once, right? We've all listened to Rage Against the Machine and thought it was a good idea, right? And then we're like, what? You gotta get a vac, I gotta get a
What?
injection to go to our concert now? What? And your name is Rage Against the Machine? Sounds like you're raging with the machine, Zach. Anyway, I don't know. I don't know. Anyway,
Oh, sorry, where
I
were
mean,
we? I
money's
interrupted you. I don't think you finished reading. Sorry.
no worries. Yeah, we'll bring it back up. No, no, this is the explanation part, so it's cool. This is the time for all that fun stuff. All right, so Yeah, what you said was right, exactly, about the obligation stuff. So, in this also spiritually too, right? If you're putting your spiritual obligations on a priest or a guru, somebody tell you what to do and how to
Mm,
act, and how many Hail Marys or whatever to say. And again, we're not judging people. It's not that there's anything wrong with any of that stuff. But this is
yeah,
kind of what the Tao is saying here. If you have your own virtue, then you can listen to your intuition and you don't have to worry about because people, it's kind of
I'm
like they have
glad
a
you said
spiritual
that.
debt, right? They feel guilty, so they go to church. Dude,
Mhm.
have you seen the Glorious or the Righteous Gemstones? Have you seen that show yet?
No, but Cody told me about it too. Like I think you've
Dude,
mentioned it, Cody mentioned it,
do yourself a favor and start
and
watching
start
that
watching.
show. It's like over the top hilarious, and it's about a family who owns a giant mega church. And I thought it was all done, but now they're coming out this Sunday with a new season.
You're kidding.
And John Goodman's in it, and he's like the main
Yes.
preacher guy. And then
Yes.
Danny
Yes.
McBride is the yeah. Do you know who Danny McBride is? Eastbound and
N-
Down. He was in Vice
I don't
Principals.
think so. But who's that other guy who plays the John Goodman's wife's brother?
Yeah.
And they were a singing group. Cody showed me that clip. It's flipping
Look,
hilarious.
so what you need to do too
What's
is,
his name? That actor. I always forget
oh
it.
yeah,
Cody
I looked
knows.
him up because he's in the White Lotus, which is also
Walton Goggins.
Walton
Walton Goggins. He
Goggins.
just put it in the chat.
And it's funny
Yeah.
because he's a serious actor too. He's like a
Yes.
dramatic
Baby Billy.
Uncle Baby Bill. He's got a game show. It's called Baby Billy's Bobble Busters. Oh my God, it's like Family Feud kind of.
Oh my
I'm
gosh.
telling you, it's so, and you're with your, it hits the chord with Christians. Like you're gonna, and it's funny because it's not like they're making fun of it, but they're not saying it's wrong. Like the things that happen, you're like, whoa, there is kind of a God. Like, I mean, they're, you'll see what I mean. But it's cool because it's not like liberals making fun of Christians. It's like Christians making fun of Christians more. It
That's
feels like,
funny.
yeah. Anyway,
I'll have
shout
to
out to
find
that
that
Joe. And
show.
Danny McBride, if you like that, he's got a bunch of other shows that are really funny. It's just like crazy humor, but there's drama in there too. He has this really good style of like making it dramatic, but then the humor's over the top. But you also feel it's hard to explain. But anyway, I'm also a
Okay.
critic, everybody, of fine art such as television and
Television.
tell our vision. That's right. It ain't the enemy. It's just a tool, everybody. Just turn off the news. All right. That's all I would say. I mean. All right. Yikes, the
Unless
news.
you want to laugh, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, well, I love the videos when they show the local news. They show one and they show two, and it's the same in three. And then before the end of it, it's like 32 little mini screens, and they're all saying the same
I've
thing.
seen that. That's insane. That's
Yeah. And it's
ridiculous.
always worrying about dangerous propaganda. It's so ironic. Like, you have to be careful of
Yeah.
dangerous propaganda. It's like, yeah. Thanks,
Yeah.
guys.
You're telling me.
All right. So well, what would the sage do? That's what really matters. So yes, the way of nature does not impose on matters such as these, but stays with the good forever and acts as their reward. So it's the way of nature, right? So it's not
Mm.
even saying really that you're gonna get rewards, but this way of nature does not impose on these matters, but stays with the good forever. So you get the ways of nature on your side, basically, if you're good. Like, so again, it's saying it's going to go with the flow, right? You're going to go with the flow.
Yeah. And you're attracting those iron filings or whatever that are on your level or vibe or whatever you want to call
Yeah.
it.
And if gratitude is your attitude, that's where it all begins. I had another kind of mini epiphany the other day because you always hear about gratitude's the attitude. And I'm gonna see if I could even put this into words. The way my mind grasped it in a different way was when you're in this vibration, you're not fearing, and you're just looking at things that happen, no matter what it is, even if it could be perceived from somebody on the outside as something terrible, but you're like, whoa, all right, what can this tell me? Where's my life going? Well, if you always have that kind of point of view and you're grateful for things as they happen, well, thank you for this lesson, even if it's something terrible, right? things are just kind of, you're like Sharon said, you're going to vibrate at this level, or however you want to put it in your words. You're just going to start to attract these things into your life. And then it's, at the end of the day, it's really not going to matter. Right. So when you start this journey, you're like, gratitude is the attitude, and then I'm going to get everything I want. But as I've gone through it anyway, I realized that, oh no, I don't have to get everything that I want. I could just take everything around me and make it into what I want, right? Or make it into something beautiful or something like that. So when you first start on it, that's why you can't really explain some of these concepts to people. You know, they're like, well, how are you always so happy all the time, Brandon? It's like, well, because I don't
I'm
let,
grateful.
yeah, I just try to be grateful for whatever happens. I could just look at it as a lesson. And, people are like, I guess you could kind of explain that to people and they could see it. But a lot of times people think the spiritual work is just going to be in bliss all day and you're going to be like, this is freaking great. But I think it's more about just accepting that everything that happened perfect, and it's okay to get mad and frustrated and all these things. And as you look at them as just lessons and are grateful for them, then they just turn into them. Just got whacked by my cat. He's crazy. So that's what they turn into, just little lessons. So yeah, I guess he's telling me to wrap it up. He's like, wrap it up, B.
Wrap. Where's the wrap it up button?
Yeah.
Wrap
You start
it
playing the music, the Oscar
up.
music or whatever, the symphony. He's like, all right, Brandon, we need this. We should get an effect that does that. It'd be hilarious. All right. I would laugh.
I need a wrap it up button and put it on just
Figure out a way to just share a thing that has like a video.
kidding.
That would be like the most fun. That would be the most like over the top humorous way to do it. Like if I'm talking too much, you start sharing your screen, you go to YouTube and find it and play
And
like when you have to wrap it up. I'm like, all right, I get the message. All right, all right. Speaking of wrapping it up.
we're
Um,
wrapping up verse 79 here with Aleister Crowley.
yeah.
All right.
Yep, go
From
ahead.
1918, Truth in Covenant. So he's talking about truth in covenant. And this is what it says. When enemies are reconciled, there's always an aftermath of ill will. Okay, so he puts it a little differently than Dwight Goddard does. Um, yeah, interesting. Okay, how can this be useful? Therefore, see, it's funny because like I don't think that therefore belongs in Aleister Crowley's or Dwight Goddard's there because it doesn't, I don't think it flows, but whatever.
And I just want to say something really
Go ahead.
quickly. So, because this reminds me a lot of funny of the Wheel of Time, because the Wheel of Time, I'll be very brief, I promise everybody, but it's a great series. And in this series, you have like the side of the light and the shadow or the dark. And there's this war coming apparently way at the end of the series. But the side of good, the people who see themselves as the side of light are all different nations and different people, and languages and cultures and customs. And a lot of them hate each other and they all think they're the enemy. So like they have to get it all together. And I think what happens is a lot of time when people are on this path of forgiveness and I'm going to like, try to forgive somebody or whatever, or I'm going to try to be cool with somebody, they kind of half forgive them in a way, they're like, oh yeah, you're cool or whatever. But
Mm,
still in their heart, they have these like fucking attachments to,
okay. Yeah.
right. So I think that's what they're addressing here. And that's what you see a lot in the Wheel of Time anyway, if you guys want to check that out. But it's a great example of that because people make these alliances that are so like tenuous. There's like an army marching along and they're made up of like five different groups of armies that at any time could start fighting each other too. But if you look at that analogy in the insider and the people around you and how you treat them, if you don't fully forgive them and you're just like, whatever, I'm going with the flow. I gave this guy $20 and he forgot to give it back. Whatever, it happens. Cool. Like they say in the Bronx Tale, hey, he owes you $20. And the guy's like, yeah. The kid's like, yeah. And he goes, yeah, well, do you like him? And he's like, no, I don't really like him. He's like, well, $20 and he's out of your life now. He's like, you got rid of him cheap. Don't worry about it. He's never gonna bother you again. So it's all about how you look at things in that
Yeah.
way. So
And even if it's thousands of dollars, just
yeah, it might be harder. It, I got ripped off a couple years ago at a gig. This dude just left and didn't pay. So, what are you can hunt them down and smack them around if you want and throw
Right.
them through a window.
Is it worth it
Or,
to like go to court
yeah,
and try to get money out of people?
court.
Like, really, people, come on now.
Sharon's
Just
much more
right.
reasonable.
Huh?
I'm like, you could go smack him around, throw him through a window, and Sharon's like, you could take him to court, or you could
Because
just let it
people
go.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I know. Well, yeah, that then you get your whole other set of things with court. What if he tries to countersue? People are just a lawyer will do anything these days. So,
Mm.
but yeah, only the lawyers win in court. I'm not saying you shouldn't. There's sometimes you probably can sue and it's right, justified. But let me tell you, the usually it's the lawyers who are the winners. Anyway, I'm
So
speaking more of the frivolous lawsuits, but
speaking
lawsuits.
of the enemies being reconciled, it made me think of Cobra Kai because you mentioned Wheel of Time and all those other shows, whatever. But in Cobra Kai, they're also, there are enemies in that because they're always fighting, right? They're always, our group's better than yours and our dojo's better than yours and we have better fighters than you and blah blah blah. So it's like always like that. And then when it comes time to, if there's a time and place where people are need to reconcile because now they have a new enemy and they need to band together or whatever, it's like even those, like sometimes they don't forgive each other really. They're just kind of like, oh well, we just need to work together because blah blah blah.
You see in
But
Lord of the Rings too. Sorry, go
yeah,
ahead.
yeah, go ahead.
I was just gonna say that it's yeah, you're right. Same thing in Lord of the Rings. The people are kind of working together, but then like the elves and the dwarves they're still kind of fighting each other. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's
They
that
never
same
let go of all of their they never reconciled it fully, they're
until
still,
what the end when they go through such craziness that they just
yes,
forget about all the other. It's
yeah,
like what?
yeah,
You see that a lot in TV shows like The Walking Dead. Some people would like murder others' friends, but then they would all get attacked by zombies and they'd be the only ones left. So they would just be like, all right, fuck that shit that happened in the past. We're cool now. And I think that's like an example of learning lessons through misery or through suffering, whereas you could just learn them through joy and just let that shit go and just see how funny that is. You're like, oh, isn't that hilarious?
uh-oh, am I freezing or is Brandon freezing?
Oh,
Was it me or you that
oh,
froze?
it might have been me. It just said my connection's unstable. Oh,
Oh,
Gina.
see, now it's you because today I'm doing pretty good.
Now it's me. Maybe there's just a spike or something.
Maybe.
All right.
Um, shall
Back
we?
to the Dow. You know what it
Yeah.
was? I was just getting too deep. They were like, you can't spread this right
Yeah,
now.
yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. It's
anyway.
enough. Enough. Wrap it up.
Yeah, it was God saying wrap it up. All right, or YouTube or Zoom or the internet. All right. So you were on to Aleister, right? Yes. Oh yeah, you read the first part. Okay, and I was
Yeah.
saying how yeah, so that's how most people see it, right? That's my whole point of my whole rambling side thing is most people when they forgive or whatever or they reconcile, there's this stuff lingering over animosity. There's just not trust. And that doesn't benefit anybody because your alliance is very tenuous and weak. Think of the 13 colonies. Everybody in this country can relate to that story. We've been fed that story a bunch, right? The 13 colonies had to unite under George Washington, even though they hated each other and slavery was the thing and all this stuff, right? But they got together to fight the British. It's the same thing, just internally, kind of. Anyway, go ahead.
Anyway. All right, so I'll read the next part of Aleister Crowley's. Therefore, the wise man, while he keepeth, okay, I'm going to read it without the what is that, Middle English or Old English? Okay. Therefore, the wise man, while he keeps his part of the record of a transaction, doesn't insist on its prompt execution. So, like Brandon was saying earlier, you just like go with the flow. Let's say a year passes and the guy still hasn't paid you back. Well, there it is. You don't worry about it. God may repay you back in some other way. You don't know. But anyway, he who hath the day, which is usually translated as virtue, considers the situation from all sides. I love that. I love that. That's like, I feel like very Libra.
Yeah, right.
Um, while he who doesn't have it, in other words, does not have virtue, seeks only to benefit himself. Yeah, I mean, that's what the other verses were saying, basically. In the
It's like
Tao
the
of,
law of one, right?
yeah,
Service to self or service to others. Yeah.
yes, yes, absolutely. In the Tao of heaven, there is no distinction of persons in its love, but it is for the true man to claim it. Well, I have something to say about that distinction of true persons
All right. Yeah.
because as soon as I heard that, and you can take us off if you want,
Yeah, it was my mouse
unless
is being
something you
weird.
want to say.
My mouse is being mousy. Sorry, I was trying to get us out. Go ahead, go ahead.
Um, so it made me think of a Bible verse because people like in like the Christian circles when I was growing up would say things like God is no respecter of persons. And I just looked it up on, you know, a browser and the AI assist, dare I use it, um, from the DuckDuckGo uh browser search engine says the phrase God is no respecter of persons means that God treats everyone equally and does not show favoritism based on status, race, or any other human distinctions. This concept is emphasized in several Bible verses, including Acts 10:34 to 35 and Romans 2:11, highlighting that God welcomes all who fear him and do what is right. And that's the AI telling you guys that.
Yeah, the internet sucks now. Let me tell you, it's not what it used to be. Like I'm grateful for it though. I'm so grateful that I was able to experience the way it was because I don't really care. It doesn't, but it's just anyway. The AI is I don't know. Maybe I don't use it
Yeah,
enough, but
it's
it,
it's fine. I don't intend to use it, but it's like now they have this little like assist button. So like basically you can ask like when you type something into the DuckDuckGo browser like I do,
yeah, I get it too. That's what I mean. I get the
it'll
answer,
just
right? Sorry.
reply back to you. Like all the search results will come up, but in the midst of like the first result will be like assist and it'll like summarize what it gleans from a couple of the um search results. So it links to bible.com and another one called abundantstreams.org, which is like, I guess, another Bible scripture verse thing. But it's just like summarizing that for you. So I have found it just a little bit helpful lately, just because if I want a little bit of a summary of something that I don't really know much about, like, maybe an old myth or something, and I'm like, wait, who was so and so and how is he
Oh
related to
yeah.
Zeus? Or you know what I mean? Like I don't
Yeah.
whatever. It helps me like kind of just quickly summarize something. But
Yeah, let me
yeah.
expand on what I mean exactly, really quickly. So you're right. Do I like AI? Yes and no. What I really mean is,
Yeah.
and I said the internet, I guess. And what I mean specifically is, yes, I have that function to my search engine where you get like a little, the first thing that comes up is a little AI thing, which I have found helpful sometimes, and sometimes it's a little funny. But I'm
Yeah, yeah. No,
specifically
I
talking
concur.
about the search results that follow. It's set up from this algorithm or whatever that sets it up with the SEO ratings, and you get it's all
Mhm.
about the advertising now. And
Oh yeah. Yeah.
I guess you could adjust it and change it. So maybe I'm just lazy,
I've
but
yeah. I don't know how to
I
do
just
it,
mean
but
like the way Google used to work was pretty fascinating when you were looking for things. It would
yeah.
just show you these obscure results sometimes. You're like, oh,
Yeah.
but what are you gonna do? Things change.
Yeah.
But yeah, no,
Well,
AI is helpful. Right?
you can use you try to use a different search engine or whatever. It could help you
Yeah, I
find
use a
stuff
few
that
different ones. But
yeah. But yeah, so anyway, that's what it reminded me of. God is no respecter of persons, which means and this verse says the Tao of heaven is there is no distinction of persons in its love. So um pretty much saying the same thing that the Bible says. Funny enough, just briefly, I was listening to a different translation of the Tao the other day. I haven't started listening to the actual translation. I was just in that like the intro, and there was a lot of cool stuff that I didn't really know. And I think I lost my train of thought about what I was going to say. Um but anyway, it was cool, and if I remember, we'll talk about it on the final episode of the Tao.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. Amazing. I cannot wait. All right, so let's shout out to the chat real quick. Blue Kachina, God is a tickler. And then Quiet Sparky Bear said, end credits to play off Brandon if he doesn't take a cue to wrap it up. Yes, AI is too wild, wild west for me. I'm a true man, says Blue Kachina. Yeah, love it. Yeah, these guys are great. Shout out to everybody in the chat. All right, let's get back to it. So that's it for that. Do we? Yeah. All right.
Um, wait, hold on. It says, but it is for the true man to claim it. Okay, so I guess that would be like the wise man, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. In the Tao of Heaven, there is no distinction of persons, and it's love, but it's up to the true man to claim it. So he's saying that you got to be the true man to get the love of heaven, right? To claim, you have to claim it yourself. You have to see it for yourself. Nobody can make you see it, right? It's like the Matrix. Unfortunately, nobody could be told that the Matrix is. You have to experience it for yourself, is what I once heard in a movie. It's the same thing, right? So that's why this stuff can't
Exactly.
you can transmit it through art and all this stuff and but you can't really what are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do about it?
And the thing behind wanting also remember too, there's this fact it could be that the reason you want to share all this information with other people is because you're also trying to validate it to
Mm-hmm.
yourself. So maybe there's some other stuff you have to work on and let go. I mean, could it be? That's how I felt that it was in my life. And now that I could see that everyone just has their own opinion and it's cool. It's all chill, man. We could just hang out and talk about the moon or that was a bad. We can hang out and talk about, going for hiking in the woods or whatever. Yeah. So, all right, let's get back to the Tao. Boom. So verse 80, no, 70, 80, yeah, verse
Second to the last verse, guys.
the big eight. We got one more after this. Stephen Mitchell from 1988. If a country is governed wisely, its inhabitants will be content be content. They enjoy the labor of their hands and don't waste time inventing labor-saving machines. Since they
Oh.
dearly love their homes, they aren't interested in travel. There may be a few wagons and boats, but these don't go anywhere. There may be an arsenal of weapons, but nobody ever uses them. People enjoy their food, take pleasure in being with their families, spend weekends working on in their gardens, delight in the doings of their neighborhood. And even though the next country is so close that the people can hear its roosters crowing and its dogs barking, they are content to die of old age without ever having gone to see it.
Mm.
Whoa, yeah, that's a powerful one, huh?
That
Ooh.
is gonna be interesting. I didn't know how to break this in half, so it's gonna be the whole thing.
Yeah, it's
All
very
right.
poetic, especially this verse anyway, so far, but we'll
Yeah.
get to that.
All right. Dwight Goddard's from 1919 is entitled Contentment. It says, in a small country with few people, let there be officers over tens and hundreds, but not to exercise power. Let the people be not afraid of death, nor desire to move to a distance. Then, though there be ships and carriages, they will have no occasion to use them. Though there be armor and weapons, there will be no occasion for donning them. The people can return to knotted cords for their records. They can delight in their food, be proud of their clothes, be content with their dwellings, rejoice in their customs. Other states may be close neighbors. Their rocks and dogs may be mutually heard. People will come to old age and die, but will have no desire to go or come.
Nice. All right, I'll bring it down to my boy Stan. Standing alone, Stan. Stan Rosenthal from 1984, standing alone. A small country may have many machines, but the people will have no use for them. They will have boats and carriages which they do not use. Their armor and weapons are not displayed, for they are serious when regarding death. They do not travel far from home and make knots and ropes. Rather, rather than let me try that again. They do not travel far from home and make knots and ropes, rather than do much writing. The food they eat is plain and good, and their clothes are simple. Their homes are secure, without the need of bolts and bars, and they are happy in their ways. Though the cockerels and dogs of their neighbors can be heard not far away, the people of the villages grow old and die in peace. Wow, this is so
Mm,
cool.
yeah. I can't wait to talk about it. Okay. Aleister Crowley from 1918 entitles this Isolation. Wow. That makes me think of the Hermit card. But anyway, in a little kingdom of few people, it should be the order that though there were men able to do the work of 10 men or 5 score, they should not be employed. Though the people regarded death as sorrowful, yet they should not wish to go elsewhere. They should have boats and wagons, yet no necessity to travel. Corselets and weapons, yet no occasion to fight. For communication, they should use knotted cords. They should deem their food sweet, their clothes beautiful, their houses homes, their customs delightful. There should be another state within view, so that its fowls and dogs should be heard. Yet to old age, even to death, the people should hold no traffic with it. This is very poetic too.
Yeah, it's all pretty super poetic. And me, it's funny because this screams of gratitude. So it overall, when after reading through all these, I just get a sense of, be grateful for what you have. It reminds me of the prodigal son, it's okay to go out. It doesn't really say it here, but it's like the ending of it, right? Where the older son realizes what he has after it's gone, this whole thing. So I like it because it's telling you how the simple people live and to keep everything simple, because a lot of people who get into spirituality and the new age stuff, they think it's this like they're gonna travel places out of body, and nothing against your book and stuff that you're reading, or they're gonna like have these mystical experiences and all this crazy stuff. But maybe that's not your journey. Jack Kornfield, he's an author who talks about this stuff. And he says that, some people never have that crazy experience. They just I think the book was called like After the Ecstasy Do the Laundry or something like that, or After the Ecstasy the Laundry. It's like you just chop wood and carry water, and after enlightenment you chop wood and carry water kind of thing. So you're just looking at life in a different way. It's really what it is. It's not about having being a guru and setting things on fire. Sometimes
Yeah.
for some people, you know.
And I just want to say that I'm not promoting this concept of like trying to go out of body.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I'm just listening to the books because it informs my view and it makes me think and wonder like it gives me more ideas for what this world, what this realm is all about and how it works. And so even if I may never experience that, because I haven't to date experienced something like exactly like that. Um, although I've had it like an interesting experience, but like where I remember I told you guys I felt like after I was meditating one day, I felt like I levitated. And I don't remember if I told you guys that, but that was like the extent of my interesting experiences. But anyway, I'm not, I read and listen to a lot of things to inform my view. And I don't necessarily do them so that I can like learn how to do it myself. I feel like whatever's meant to happen to me, God will just bring it to me. I don't, because I've just felt like that's always happened to me in my life. Like if I needed to experience something, it would happen. So I don't need to go looking for it necessarily because if it's meant to happen, it will. And if it's not, it won't. So, but I do like to listen to stories and understand different viewpoints because it just informs my view. And I don't know everything, you know?
100%. And that's where the beginning of wisdom is to admit that you don't know everything. And that goes along with everything that we look into, and that's why we do it. We're not doing it because we're trying to strengthen our belief in the law of one or the Tao or whatever. We're just trying to gain a better understanding and a wider worldview. Maybe because Sharon's a Libra and I'm a Libra ascendant. Who knows? You know, we're trying both sides of this thing. But yeah, I think that was pretty great.
Yeah. You want
All
to
right,
get
so
into it?
yeah, let's do it.
We finished reading both, right?
Yep,
Yes. Okay.
I just have to. Okay, so back to Stephen Mitchell for the breakdown, everybody. It's like we're sports commentators. Did you see that? If a country is governed wisely, its inhabitants will be content. And I think this is the key word, content, right? And when we're talking about um, countries being governed, remember this common theme that we've been keeping up through this whole series. You might not be ever become an emperor or president or whatever, but you're always the governor of your own inner, as if you will, country or nation, your inner struggles and stuff like that. So if you use that through if you take that lens and you talk about governing your inside wisely, kind of like the Hierophant card in the Major Arcana, you're going
Mm-hmm.
to be content if it's wise. And then I think they go into the breakdown of how to do that wisely. So they enjoy their labor. They enjoy the labor of their hands. So this is kind of how you be content, right? You enjoy the labor of your hands and don't waste time inventing labor-saving machines,
Hmm.
right? Now, again, it's not that we're demonizing all technology or whatever, but it's just to know what technology is and what you're actually doing. So it's not bad to work with your hands sometimes. Since they dearly love their homes, they aren't interested in travel. Now, again, if we're taking this esoterically, I should even bring it back to here. They enjoy the labor of their hands and don't waste time inventing labor-saving machines. You can look at that. Here, let me take us down. You can even look at that esoterically, like you're walking your own path and you're not relying on other people's idea. Like you're not relying on
Methods.
organized religion.
I think you're breaking up again.
Hello, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Okay. You're relying on the labor of your own inner uh, intuition, if you will, to figure out your actions and stuff like that. So you can even look at it that way.
Mm-hmm. What it
Uh,
reminded me of is, remember that book Ikigai that I read? Um, that talked about these small little um towns and places like, Japan and stuff, where people lived long lives because they had this sense of purpose, and they enjoyed the labor of their hands. They worked with their plants and stuff. Brandon, you're frozen. I don't know if okay, you're back. um they did all these things in their gardens and blah blah blah. So it reminded me of these centenarians in Japan and these other small villages that um they were just enjoying life, right? They were content with what they had, and they had their little purpose. Even if it was just every day they would tend to their gardens and meditate in the morning before breakfast or whatever. They just had their little things that they did, and they had their community of people that they hung out with, maybe in the evenings or whatever. And they just they lived till the hundreds, and they lived healthily till their hundreds.
yeah, they never felt useless. And that's what happens to a lot of
Yeah.
people after they
Yeah.
retire and stuff like that. Yeah, if you have a purpose, then you're gonna fulfill it daily, you know. I think that's a lot of, yeah. Well, we can go into that conversation, but it'd be hours. But yeah, no, totally.
Mm.
Okay, so since they dearly love their homes, they aren't interested in travel. And you could look at that again on the physical, like where people, you don't have to really go places because you're happy at home. But it doesn't mean travel is wrong. But if you look at it esoterically, you're gonna see that it's more about what you have is good enough. Like
Yeah.
you're perfect the way you are, kind of thing. You don't have to try to be somebody else.
And I can relate to that because because I can see that as like a form of escapism. And it could just be as simple as like not being home all the time. Because years ago when it was after my husband passed away, I was, I would leave the house and I wasn't home a lot. And even prior to that, even before I met him and stuff, I spent a lot of time like eating out, doing things, at work. So I wasn't home that much. And I I guess over time I started spending more time at home. I moved away from work a little bit, so now I was a little in a little different place, and it was more residential. There weren't a lot of like restaurants nearby. I couldn't just run to the mall real quick like I used to be able to. Um And so now I was staying home a lot more. And now I'm just like, lately, I'm like a total hermit. And I love being home all the time. And
Yeah,
like,
it's
I
great.
almost like, like, I don't leave the house very much and I don't mind. I don't care.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
I'm
I
just like,
can relate
I
to
guess
that
I didn't leave the
resonate.
house today.
Yeah. No, I could totally resonate with that, and I'm sure Elizabeth as well. And it just, I feel like it maybe this time of year and the energy and but there's really nothing wrong with it, especially the Dow versus telling you right here. Sometimes you have to stay home and not travel.
It also made me think of like when I went to Malaysia for work in some years ago, whatever year that was. Um, Oh my gosh. The flight was so long. It was like, I don't know, 14, 15-hour flight.
Yeah.
I had never taken a flight like that in my life because I'd never been to Asia. And after that, I was like, I am never going back to Asia, just FYI,
Yeah.
because that flight sucked. If there's any way to get there faster or a different way, maybe in the future there's a better way to get there, maybe like go somewhere in between and stay there for like a week or two and then hop over there. But like to do it in one almost fucking foul swoop, pardon my French, I was like, oh hell no, I ain't doing that again. Like
You could hop over to Europe and then take a train, that'd be cool through Russia and stuff.
yeah,
Try that
yeah,
on the train. Yeah, that
yeah,
I know because I was in the military and I heard this comedian, I forget who it was, maybe Daniel Tosh, but he's like, I'm never going to Australia or whoever it was. And he's like, I'd rather sit. He's like, it's like sitting in the corner and just pressing on your face for like 14 hours. He's like, I'd rather.
yeah, yeah. It, maybe now that I've worked through a lot of stuff, maybe it wouldn't be so bad. But no, I really don't like being on a plane more than a few hours anymore.
Yeah, I would just try to pass out or sleep. And I mean, I'm 6'5", so it's
And I'm
rough
not
for
good
me.
at that. I cannot do that. It's so hard for me to fall asleep on a plane. Anyway,
The best was when we got to fly in
needless to say.
cargo, when we get to fly in the cargo jets, because once you got to a stable altitude, they'd let us unbuckle because we just had like benches along with seatbelts, and you
Yeah.
could just lay. So
Yeah.
I would just sleep on top of the cargo. It was great. I could sleep anywhere. It's good.
Mm.
Like if it's your time to go,
Well,
it's your
good
time to
for
go.
you.
If I'd rather sleep, I'd rather be asleep if the plane goes down. I'd probably be the one survivor because I didn't. And just like, whoa, what happened?
Oh my God.
It'd be like lost. Anyway. So back to the down. Yeah, no, those are all good points though. For sure. That travel is crazy. But yeah, being happy with where you are, right, is so much more. All right, so there may be a few wagons and boats, but these don't go anywhere. So you have the means and the ability to do these in case the need arises. So you're still prepared. So I think, again, esoterically, what this means is you're not um you're so if you look at it esoterically, it's
You're
you're
still
not
open
staying
to the
home.
idea.
Yeah, you're open to the idea. You're not staying home because you're scared, right? We'll say it that way. You're not afraid to go out. You just realize that there's no real reason for anything outside. Before you were searching outside for something that you just found
Mhm.
inside is really what it is, right?
Yeah, it was a form of escapism to just be out there, distracting yourself and not being home. And now, well, I'm working through it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We're all just preaching. I'm doing the same thing.
I'm
Sometimes
just
it's
preaching to
nice to take
myself.
a ride. We take a ride. Sometimes we call it car hiking. Sometimes when it's like really beautiful. So sometimes it is nice to get out and do those things. So it's a balance, right? And I think that's why it's nice that then that's what I wanted to highlight about this next part of the verse, and I'll bring it back up and finish that quickly. Where they say there may be a few wagons, and then also there may be an arsenal of weapons, but nobody ever uses them. It's the same kind of it's preparedness, right? You're still prepared. And if you're going to look at it esoterically, you still know how to do all these things like meditation and yoga or whatever, but you might not need to use them at this time or whatever. Or maybe you do, or in the physical, you still have weapons to defend yourself, but you never
Hmm.
use them. They're just there just in case.
Hmm.
In the presence of a weapon in the viewpoint of the weapon. So the way you view your weapon is huge in creating egregores as well, I can imagine, because there's this egregore out there of some people wanting to be like good guys and save the day. And if that's why you carry a weapon or you have them, then you might find yourself in that situation, right? Whereas if you have one just to be responsible or prepared or whatever, and you view it that way, then maybe it could be preventing things too. Who knows? Whatever. But it's just, I think,
It
esoterically, really, it's like a preparedness. Go ahead.
it
Sorry.
makes me think of Mr. Miyagi and Miyagi-Do, which is like because I'm watching Cobra Kai, so makes me think of the concept of using the karate as or the whatever you whatever format you do in the self-defense. So it's not like you go and you attack the Cobra Kai method, which is the attack first and no mercy and all that stuff. It's more about if someone comes at you, then you know how to defend yourself. Um, but you're not just going up to people and starting fights. You're not the bully. You're breaking up a little bit
Well, in
still.
other
Do you?
words, I was going to say, in other words, you're living in accordance with natural law.
Mhm. Yeah, you go with the flow.
We haven't seen it yet, but maybe we'll check it out next. We just rewatched The Righteous Gemstones in order to get ready
Okay.
for and it's like really good. Oh, that's what I was going to say about that show. So that guy, the actor Walter Goggins, look up what he looks like
Walton.
now because he gets makeup for the show. Like he's
Oh,
portrayed
okay.
to look older, but it's so funny
Oh.
because he plays this energetic old man. It's
Walton Goggins, are you sure?
yeah, he's not as old as he is in
He
the
plays the brother of the wife of John
yeah.
Goodman. Okay.
So he's like the Uncle Baby Billy. So he's an older
Okay.
guy, but in real life, he's probably about 20 years younger than he is
Oh,
portrayed on the show.
weird.
Yeah. So they gray his hair because he's in another show. He's actually in the show called The Shield on FX, which was a crazy show back in the day. But he's on the show The Lotus now too, which is a reoccurring show. But they always have different cast members. It's each season is self-contained and it's about a spiritual resort actually that's like high end for rich people, and then all this stuff gets down. And there's some stuff that bleeds to the next seasons or whatever, but it's mostly always about a new place. But he's in this season, and you could tell he's probably in his 50s or whatever, maybe early 60s. But on the show, he's playing someone I think in their 70s or whatever.
Yeah,
So it's
Cody and I recently watched a video on YouTube about some guy coming to his house and he lets them tour his house. It's pretty cool.
oh,
Yeah, and he's probably in his 50s or 60s like you said. I don't know how old he is, but
but on the show he plays somebody probably in their 70s, I think, and it's funny because he's so energetic and he's like jumping around. Oh my God. And just he's a total narcissist, you could tell. And that's another thing that's good about the show. You could see a few narcissists in action because they keep turning things back around about themselves. Like there's a part where there's characters that are kidnapped and are about to be killed, and like he comes in and He's like, all right, but we did work out that deal before he got kidnapped. So even if he gets killed, I still get my show, right? Like that's what he's worried. He's always worried about himself. He's like, but like in such a way that it's comical. So yeah, you'll see. It's really good anyway. I don't want to keep gushing about the show. Oh, that's what I was saying. We could, if you like the show, we could always do a show about that show, like, mining righteous gemstones or something where, because there is a lot of symbolism. If you'll notice, if you really look with eyes wide open, which I know you will, there's symbolism, the way the characters dress, the way they set up things on stage, sometimes even in the shots, the way they're framed. It's very
Hmm.
symbolic. Like they know what they're doing. It's
Well,
pretty good.
I'll have to rely on Cody for all that because sometimes I'm not paying attention to that.
Yeah. No, I hear you. All right. Well, you could always let me know. I'm sure you'll like it though. It's a lot of funny,
Yeah.
silly humor. Uh
Shall we get back to the reading?
oh yeah, let's do it. Back to the Tao Te Ching.
Dun 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 dun.
Yes. But people enjoy their food, so everybody's following along right here. People enjoy their food, take pleasure in being with their families, spend weekends working in their gardens, delight in the doings of the neighborhood. So it's all about being grateful for what's around you and
Yes.
accepting it. Uh, and then again, it's back to kind of travel or whatever. And even though the next country is so close that people can hear its roosters crowing and its dogs barking, they are content to die of old age without ever having gone to see it.
That's like
And
me with Asia.
yeah,
Just kidding. Just kidding.
we love
I'm
Asia.
open. If there's, if I'm meant to go, I'll go again. So who knows?
Take a train
And
or
go through
well,
Russia.
I'm trying to think. Maybe you could go to Alaska and then like take a cruise down or something, Japan, and then hop over, you never know. Um, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, so the end of this. Yeah, so it's still wrapping up the theme about like you were saying being happy with what you got or being happy at home and not going to
Yeah.
Asia for 14 hours in a metal tube in the sky. All right.
Yeah. Shall I read Dwight Goddard's?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. Dwight Goddard from 1919 uh entitles this Contentment. In a small country with few people, let there be officers over tens and hundreds, but not to exercise power. Well, Stephen Mitchell doesn't talk about people being governed or whatever, not governed, but just like people over people. So that's interesting. He says, so I don't know where he got that from, but I think Aleister Crowley probably does that too. Um, I like how it says in a small country with few people because we've talked about it on the show that when the crowds get bigger and bigger and bigger, that's when things get out of hand. So when you're like in a small town and there's community in the small town, it works out. But when things start to get too big, that's when things begin to get out of hand.
Yeah,
Um,
your mind can't even comprehend it. There's actually a Native American doctor, medicine man guy that we're friends with, we go see, and he talked about that. And I've heard about this before, I think on a Joe Rogan podcast way back in the day. About too many people living together too close in proximity, and then also what Bear, who's the Native American gentleman, really awesome guy, what he was saying is that people's minds are only set up to deal with like a tribe, a small tribe of people. So when you
yeah.
start to identify, and it's okay, so it's okay to live where you're going to move out of people are like, what are you going to move out of the US and live in an island? No, no, what you do is it's just where you identify, right? Do you identify as like a man or as a man and then as or a woman and then as a in your family and then be your neighborhood and then your community or your town, or are you like I'm a Republican and I'm an American, that's when the troubles happen because then Americans
Mm,
want to go to war or what, just a example.
good
So it's
example.
all about your identification, I think.
Hmm.
Ain't that the
Yeah. And
truth?
so what, like your attachments to those,
Yeah.
monikers or whatever.
Identifications, your attachments to those identities. Like, I'm an
Hmm.
American citizen, like I'm a patriot, and I was a Marine, right? That's another identification that I had, right? But I also identified as a silly man, so it was cool. I got to do impersonations. All right. Uh, Here we go. Bring it back up. Bring it back. You were on Dwight, right?
Yeah. All right. So it says, let the people be not afraid of death, nor desire to move to a distance. Those kind of seem kind of different than each other.
Oh,
Let the people not be afraid of death. And then don't desire to move to a distance. Hmm. They are similar. I mean, they're different, but they are also similar because when you die, you go to a distant place. I mean, not distant really necessarily, you're just probably in a different frequency or realm or whatever, but uh
identification.
yeah.
What
Um
this reminds me of, if I could break in real quick,
yeah.
if you don't mind. That concept we've heard before in the Tao about la la la, where was it again? Yes, the death thing, not being afraid of death. Remember,
Mhm.
it was the verse about like you don't want your people in your country to fear death. And I got a new insight on it because I looked over at the Stephen Mitchell part, and in the Stephen Mitchell version, he's saying the labor. It's kind of like, they enjoy the labor of their hands and don't waste time inventing labor-saving machines. That's kind of like escapism. And then I think you could just boil it all down to just the fear of death being escapism, right? Because if they have a fear of death, then they're going to
Mhm.
engage in escapism to
Mhm.
get away from that fear. But if they
Yeah.
don't, and that's what I found in my life, a lot of the escapisms that I was a lot of the
Oh,
forms of escapism I was engaging in were due to my fear of death at the end of the
that makes
day.
more sense. It makes this make more sense.
Yeah.
That
Well, we're
fear of
we're
death thing.
killing it here on the Oversharing show.
Yeah, let people not be afraid of death nor desire to move to a distance because if you always want to move to a distance equals escapism basically. It's
Escape.
you're probably afraid of death
Yeah. Or
in
and you're thinking
some
you can escape your
roundabout way.
problems,
Yeah.
which your problems, you're only perceiving them as problems because you have this unconscious fear of death. And most times,
Hmm.
most people know they're afraid of death, but they don't realize unconsciously that their fear of death is motivating a lot of their behaviors. I'll put it that way.
Hmm.
Yes. All right. We're really breaking down to see. That's why you gotta. People get bored and then they're just like they tune out by now. But the people who are still listening get the nuggets.
11 people are still here.
Yeah. Oh, shout out to these people. Thank you
Yeah.
guys. What's going on in the
11's one
chat
of my
here, by the way?
numbers,
Oh, Blue
so
G John Chase. Let's see. I'm gonna go to the chat. Oh, here. Let's break this down for a
check the
second.
chat.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'll scroll up a little bit. Walton Goggins was just wonderful and justified. Yeah, I think I saw that. Also, Vice Principals is another one with him and Danny McBride. With Walter Goggins is in it and
Walton
hilarious.
Goggins.
Walton Goggins. Start no shit, take no shit. Yeah, exactly. A righteous stance is the best stance. Sweep the legs. Oh, yeah, I'm gonna have to get into Cobra Kai. Wherever you go, it's still you. Exactly, Blue Kachina. He gets it. He knows. Wherever you go, you're still you, so it doesn't matter. You're just running away. Now, it doesn't mean you can't move to a better situation or whatever, because if you're conscious of that, then you could take that with you when you move to your new place, because sometimes you have to move in circumstances, Like, I mean, Connecticut's just getting insane. I just found out some new things. I can't, I can't sell a firearm. A Connecticut resident can't sell a firearm now to another Connecticut resident without getting a FFL involved, like so you got to go somewhere and get it transferred. Like you used to be able to call the state. Isn't that like anyway,
Forms of
it's
control.
amazing. It's so great because now there's other ways. See, it's funny because whenever you try to do it, it's just with firearms, it just raises their value now, right? So that's all it's going to do. And now more people are going to get licenses and get fees to transfer, but it's going to bring the because the seller's not going to take less, right? Because you want that gun. I mean, sometimes if they really need money, I guess. But anywho, Connecticut politics, everybody's into great. But it's another again, we could just view it and be grateful. Be like, you know what, maybe that will stop some robberies or make my guns more valuable. I mean, my alleged guns, right? You know, who knows? All right. All
All
right.
right.
So, yes, Jesse JC, is there a link to what you're reading? Oh, good question.
We don't have one yet, but after verse 80, after we do verse 81, Brandon's going to put the slides on his website. Is that what
Yeah,
you
we'll
said?
put a link to a PDF with all this on the website, but what we are reading is just four different versions of the Tao.
Yeah, actually, in the description, check the links in the description because we do have separate links for where they're at online. They're not going to be in this format, but they're online.
Yeah, so you could get to each one that we're reading through the links exactly. So we just don't have
Thank
them
you,
in one
Jesse.
place. Yeah.
JC hadn't seen you in the chat. Welcome.
Yeah. Welcome. More Texas, more taxes. Nice. And problems, bigger problems in Texas. Yeah, exactly right.
Everything's
I
big in Texas.
isn't Texas trying to secede? Are they still going along with that thing?
I don't know. I
I
don't
haven't
know if
been
they're
paying
still
attention.
trying.
That'd be great. I think
You'd move.
I moved to the border of Arizona and Texas. I bet that would be one of the most like prosperous areas because Arizona is,
Well,
you
you'd
know,
be in New Mexico then, if you want to call it
oh
a
yeah, that's right.
border.
New Mexico's in between them. My geography is actually pretty good too. It's funny I made that mistake, but yeah. Wow, I just thought about that. Maybe that's why New Mexico. I mean, that's where Breaking Bad took place, and it's right near Mexico too.
Yeah.
And all right. So, Texas is not trying at the moment. We just chilling. All right,
Oh,
cool.
okay. Blues and Tex.
Oh,
I
cool. Do all your exes live in Texas, Blue?
all my
All my
exes
exes
live
live
in
in
Texas.
Texas. That was like the one country song I would always think about when I would think about country music because I'm from Connecticut until I was in the Marines. But yeah.
I've heard the
All
quote
right.
that people who love Texas but weren't born there say, I wasn't born here, but I got here as soon as I could.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm just sticking it out here in Connecticut for the time being. I feel like I'm a emissary for like chill people. I mean, there's some cool people in Connecticut, like obviously, but it's just craziness. But whatever. It's fun. Makes for good comedy. Um, all right, let's get back into all my generations did, yeah. Speaking about it's like already its own country. Yeah, exactly. Texas. It kind of was its whole Lone Star State story. All right, let's see. Does Archaics run Texas yet? Is that a fair question? I haven't been keeping up with really anything. All right, except for
Me
Perine
either.
Barra. Deep cuts. Okay, so we were on where were we again? We were.
Then though
Oh yeah, okay.
let oh sorry. Then though there be ships and carriages, they will have no occasion to use them. So they'll have ships, they'll have carriages, but they don't really need to leave home very often. So they're content to be where they're at. Though there be armor and weapons, there will be no occasion for donning them. And basically, this is repeating what Brandon already said, Stephen Mitchell said. The people can return to knotted cords for their records. This is interesting because it makes me think of the Kipu. Um, did you guys did you ever hear about the Kipu from the Incan Empire or whatever?
I think so. It
It's
sounds familiar, but please elaborate.
um maybe I'll share my screen.
I thought you said Hebrew. I was like,
No, Kipu. Let me
I'm
share
so
my screen. Hold
hilarious.
on, just quick. Is this one? Yeah. So it's spelled this way. Quipu, or sometimes spelled with a K, Khipu, are recording devices fashioned from knotted cords. They were historically used by various cultures in the central Andes of South America, most prominently by the Incan Empire. A quipu usually consists of cotton or camelid fiber cords. I don't know what that word is.
Me neither.
And contains categorized information based on dimensions like color, order, and number. Let me see if we can see some pictures of these quipu. Yeah, look,
Oh.
they're knotted cords. But like, I feel like in this show that I heard about them from, which is an old show from the 1980s called The Mysterious Cities of Gold, it was a cartoon. Um, I heard they were record keeping devices, and also who knows what else.
What was that
So
about? That cartoon?
the cartoon was about um the conquest of the Americas, this like the southern parts.
Is that where they were trying to find the Golden City of El
Yeah,
Dorado
the
or whatever?
cities of gold. Uh-huh.
I
And
used to
it's
watch that show.
really it's these little kids. Do you remember it? It's three little kids. You're breaking
I
up
do.
again.
Yep, I remember.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, so
Mhm.
the girl, her name is Zia. Um, I think it's her village or whatever that had a what they called a golden quipu, which was like a special one that was going to tell them where all the cities of gold were, something to that effect.
Oh, the
And
Seven
then
Cities of Gold, right? It was something like that.
it wasn't. I don't know if they counted them, but they just always called them the
Oh, okay.
mysterious cities of gold, the cities of gold, and the Spanish conquerors were trying to find the children so they could find the cities of gold because the children had all the clues and keys and like to know where to find them, and so they were always trying to get the kids, but the kids would somehow escape, and yeah, it was an interesting show. I had never watched it, but Cody told me about it because he used to watch it as a kid, and so at some point we found it and we're watching it.
Oh, you're watching it now. Oh, yeah. See, I had
No,
seen it back
we
then.
were watching it, but we finished it. Like,
Oh, okay.
yeah.
That's cool. Yeah, it was a cool one. Hmm. I'm trying to think of there's a catchphrase or something from it I'm trying to think
Oh,
of.
Cody says great music. He also likes the music from the Mysterious Cities of Gold because it's like it's kind
Oh,
of like uh I don't know, like techno-y, but not really. It's like the old, yeah,
like
it's interesting.
80s dance kind of.
Not yeah, it's kind of interesting. It's like electronic, but it's not quite techno. I don't know how to describe it. Cody can probably describe it better than me.
Oh,
Synth heavy. Yeah, there you go. He says
okay.
not techno, synth heavy. Thank you. Sorry.
Gotcha.
Pardon
Sweet.
my I don't describe music very well.
I'm just pretending. Yeah, that sounds. Oh.
um, but yeah, that's what that reminded me of when he said knotted chords. I'm like, what? I never really heard of that before anywhere else. Do you know what that's about?
Do I know what it's about? Or you?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I was gonna say when you said synth heavy, I'm like, as opposed to simp heavy, which some shows, I know. I would say it looks pretty cool. It's like a way to record things, either, maybe quantities of things or even stories and, maybe even like maps. But like stories and legends, people can tell them by using these things. They could be passed down along with like oral traditions and stuff like that. So yeah, that's really cool. And it's cool to bring that up because I feel like what he's saying here in the verse is like keep it simple. You don't have to write it all down. And to me, what that means is it's like go with your intuition over your ego. You're not that you shouldn't be a writer, and if you want to write a blog post or whatever, it's not what it's telling you not to do, in my view, the way we're breaking it down. They're saying listen to your intuition. It's not about your ego because your ego is the one that wants to write it down and kind of dissect it and be all like, where is your intuition? It's just a feeling. It's like we were saying earlier with silence in the meditation, or just silence is golden. You in the silence, it just comes to you. Whereas opposed to the chatter and the thinking mind, all these ideas keep coming in and things you think you should do. That's more of the ego. So that's kind of how I'd look at that too.
Shall I keep reading?
Yeah, let me bring it back. Here you go.
All right. Yeah, so the people can return to knotted cords for their records. They can delight in their food, be proud of their clothes, be content with their dwellings, rejoice in their customs. That's interesting. Proud of their clothes. That's kind of a funny thing to say.
Well, I
Um,
think it's, it kind of speaks to not worrying about other people's trends and fashions.
oh, okay.
Like your whatever
Yeah,
you have is okay. You don't have to go out and keep buying Pendleton
yeah,
shirts. You have a you get a nice little stock of them and then you're good. You don't got
yeah,
to keep getting the newest, latest stuff.
yeah.
Keep up with all the fashions. It's about functionality, but still, yeah, it's that if you're looking at it esoterically, it's like you don't have to jump on all these crazy fads and new things that happen. If you find something that works for you, you just go with it. All right.
Yeah. Blue Kachina says they used the cords, and when a debt was paid off, it was cut off and taken possession of.
Oh, cut the cord,
There you go.
maybe
Cut
something
your
to.
losses.
Yeah, cut your losses. There you go. Cut your losses. That's the one I was probably thinking of. Good job, Sharon. And
Oh
that
no,
goes
cut the
back to
cord
the
too. Why not?
yeah, but the cut the losses thing, and it goes to the other verse where they were just like, you just let it go. Cut your losses. Cut the
Yeah.
cord. All right.
All right, this last little bit.
Yep, I'll bring it up. Oop.
Other states may be close neighbors. Their cocks and dogs may be mutually heard. People will come to old age and die, but will have no desire to go or come. And that basically says kind of what we were talking about in the other verse. So,
Yeah. All right, so we can move it along. Here's Stan Rosenthal from 1984, Standing Alone. A small country may have many machines, but the people will have no use for them. They will have boats and carriages, which they do not use. Their armor and weapons are not displayed. So he's pretty much just repeating what the other one said
mm-hmm.
about all these, it's preparedness kind of, but he does say a little bit um about weapons here. He said their armor and weapons are not displayed, for they are serious when regarding death. So the people take it seriously. They don't just willy-nilly go to war and start killing people. They got to have a good reason for it. They do not travel far from home and make knots in ropes. There you go. Same thing. But now we have a better understanding because of the last verse, I think. Rather than do much writing. The food they
mm.
eat is plain and good, and their clothes are simple. So that's a better way to put it. Their clothes are simple, I think, than it was in the last verse,
Okay,
right?
yes, yes.
Their homes are secure without need of bolts and bars. So they have
Mm.
secure homes because it's secure from the inside, right? You don't have to secure it from the outside.
And
And
probably because there's trust in the community.
yeah, yep. And that starts on the inside, right?
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Virtuous.
huh?
Virtue. Like when
Yeah,
people have day, when they have virtue, that's why they don't need the bolts and bars.
100%. They are happy in their ways, so they're not going outside to look. Just kind of like the other verses. It's really a lot of these verses are lining up, which is great. Which means it's really a simple message,
Yeah.
which I think is meant to be poetic, because they all seem pretty poetic. Though the cockerels and dogs of their neighbors can be heard not far away, the people of the village grow old and die in peace. So it doesn't really say that they don't go there and die in peace without visiting them. Whoa, I almost dropped my keyboard. Uh, but it does imply that, I would say. So it's pretty much the same thing. What do you think?
Let's see. There was something I thought of. Oh, this part that says their armor and weapons are not displayed, for they are serious when regarding death. I recently started listening to and reading the book The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Um, and it's not very long. It's like a 4 hour reading. So it's not like a super long book, but it's really I really enjoy. I really like it. And a lot of people, do. That's why it's a very famous book. But um there's a spot in it that where they're in this desert area in like North Africa, and they're headed toward a an oasis, and yet there's like rumors of wars going on between groups, but the oasis is supposed to be this place of peace where there's you can't start a war in there, you can't go in there with arms or anything. um so when they get there, they have to give their arms to people, and they'll tuck them away or whatever until they're ready to leave and continue their journey. But what ends up happening is that the wars are continually going on. And I won't give away the story, but it's just an interesting thing that made me think of that story. Are you there?
Yeah, I might have froze for a while, but I could hear you the whole
Okay.
time.
Okay. um anyway, where were we?
We were gonna go to the Aleister Crowley
Okay.
breakdown. Yeah.
uh
That it's funny. Well, to hang on really quick,
Go ahead.
there's that concept does exist in Wheel of Time. There's a city that so basically in the Wheel of Time, certain people can channel, so they have like this ability to like use magic and like affect things and stuff. And there's this one city that has a giant statue that has is a magical powers that protects the city. So if you're in there, then and you're a person who can channel, you can't channel or whatever. But they also have, and it's been a city that was there for like ever. It's like from the old times or whatever, but it's still a city. And they also have a rule where if you have a sword, you have to give it same thing. When you go in the city, you have to give up your weapon over there. So it's an interesting concept, for sure to think about. And you know, esoterically, you can even look at the going within kind of thing. And the reason I would say would be okay with it is like we're talking about earlier with the group sizes. When you get into a size of a city, all these people packed together, the behavior changes. And when the weapons are involved, I mean, I'm not saying you shouldn't be able to carry a weapon. What I'm saying is I understand the logic behind it. They're trying to use less lethal weapons because people are so close together and
Mm-hmm.
they know they're going to pop off more. So, all right.
Yeah, good point. um
Yes. Or they also actually have an idea in that city, if I can think of the name of it. Anyway, there you could pay to have your sword piece bonded. So what they do is they wrap it with wire and they have like a lead thing where they close the wire. So you still have your sword in case something happens, you could break that bond and pull out your sword and use it, and then you can explain why. So this way you can still carry it, which is an interesting concept also.
hmm.
But it just reminded me of what we were saying earlier when too many people get together in one area, so this way they have like clubs and staffs as weapons instead of swords because you can't do as much damage but you could defend yourself. So it's an interesting concept, especially when it's played within literature.
Yeah. All right, I can read Aleister Crowley, I think.
There you go.
um all right, there may be something I'll say later that I forgot to say, but I'll read this for now. Aleister Crowley from 1918, verse 80, entitles this Isolation. In a little kingdom of few people, it should be the order that though there were men able to do the work of 10 men, or 5 score, and is score 20?
I think so. Let me look it
So the
up.
five score will be 100. Okay, anyway, they should not be employed, though the people regard death as sorrowful, yet they should not wish to go elsewhere. They should have boats and wagons, yet no necessity to travel. Corselets, and I'll talk about this in a second, and weapons, yet no occasion to fight. All right, so back in verse 50, this word was mentioned too. And at first I thought it was like a misspelling, corselet, but it's actually just like a variation or maybe even an original spelling of what meant body armor or like a breastplate. Like women wear corsets, but I think that is the corset for the women is the variation of this corselet, I think. I don't know which one came first. But anyway, this is spelled correctly. And in verse 50, I had changed it. So I changed it back. So the final PDF will have the correct spelling.
Okay.
Um, all right, I'll keep reading. Um, for communication, they should use knotted cords. They should deem their food sweet, their clothes beautiful, their houses homes, their customs delightful. All right. So what I'll say so far is that he's using the word should a lot, which is kind of interesting. Like it's like if he's telling people what to do, right? um, what do you have to say about that? I think because yeah, I don't know. He's saying should a lot. What do you think?
Well, I think in the context, because he's like, though the people regard death as sorrowful, yet they should not wish to go elsewhere. So he's kind of saying, like if you want to live in accordance with the Tao, I guess you could put it that way,
Okay.
then you should not. I hear what you're saying, right? Like you shouldn't do this and you should do that. And the Tao
Yeah,
is
yeah.
more
I'm
about
just saying that because like it's gonna sound to people like yeah, like you should and
judgmental.
shouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah, like it sounds judgmental. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I hear you.
Um, so I guess in that first one, in a little kingdom of few people, it should be the order that though they're meant to do the work of 10 or 100, they shouldn't be employed. Not really understanding that. Okay, I'll move on. Though the people regard death as sorrowful, they shouldn't wish to go elsewhere. So I guess if you're living in accordance with the Tao, um, you wouldn't want to go elsewhere, even if you do regard death as something sorrowful. And if you have boats and wagons, you have no need to travel anyway. I think it's saying basically same things the other verses are saying, but he's using this word should, so it kind of makes it a little bit more complicated. Um, but I do like it here that they should deem their food sweet and their clothes beautiful because then it kind of clears up the like this one says their clothes simple. It clears up Dwight Goddard's, which was like be proud of your clothes. So this one's it's just more like view all that you have in with like rose colored glasses or something. um their houses as homes, their customs as delightful. There should be another state with okay, so like maybe you could use the word there might be or there could be. So or there would be. So there might be another state within view, and you might see its birds and dogs. All right, let me read it. There should be another state within view, so that its fowls and dogs should be heard. Yet to old age, even to death, the people should hold no traffic with it. Basically, it's saying the same thing the other verses said, which is like there might be another state within view, um, and you might hear its dogs and birds. But even growing old, even to like you might get to your very old age and you might never go to that local town that's nearby or whatever, or that state.
Yeah, it's kind of like the other ones were saying, right? Like you were saying.
Yeah, basically.
I think in the beginning here though, in a little kingdom of few people, it should be the order that there were. So this is back at the beginning, everybody. I'm up here. Though that there were men able to do the work of 10 men or five score, they should not be employed. So what I think it's saying is that it's kind of like the over here with the San Rosenthal. He's got the many machines. Actually, I'm going to bring it up here because it was the time saving, labor saving machines. That's what I was thinking of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
it's similar in a way where you don't want just a few people doing all of the work, right? Everybody kind of has a share of their own work. And
Mm,
if you look at that esoterically, really all it means is
right.
you kind of
That
want to be,
makes more sense. Thank you.
yeah, exactly. Thank you. You're welcome. And then, like in an esoteric sense, you want to be more balanced. You don't want to just be all in your head or all in your heart. Like you want to kind of be balanced however you want to, however it works for you, dear listener and viewer. That's kind of what I got out of that. But yeah, the rest of it though does seem pretty much, and that's kind of what the other verses were saying. He just says it in a very
Yeah.
confusing.
Yeah, yeah, in an esoteric way.
Yeah, it's
Um,
cool though. I love.
so when I first read this, I put a note to self, but I I'm glad I did because I didn't think of it this time around. But when I was reading this the first time and putting together these slides, that part that says in Stan Rosenthal's that says a small country may have many machines, but the people will have no use for them. It reminded me, and not because it is exactly the same, but it just kind of reminded me of um a place in the book, sorry, in the book by Robert Monroe called Journeys Out of the Body, the first book in his series. In one of his trips out of body, he goes to this place that's like similar to Earth, like similar to being here, but it was different. He said the roads were wider, the vehicles that people rode in were like wider, and they held more people like this way, and they like move, like it was, the way he was describing was interesting. So all their things were like different. He knew he was not here, and he knew he wasn't in an old version of Earth, right? Like in the past. He wasn't in the past, or who knows, right? But he was in this other place that had different machines and different and they didn't use that, they didn't have the technology that we do here on in this realm. They weren't advanced. They continued to use like mechanical ways of doing things, and that was very interesting too. Anyway, it made me think of that back then, but I forgot about it until I read the note. Weird.
Yeah, it makes you think of what kind of society we can have if people were more following the Tao. And again, it's not like we're like, we wish it was that way, but it's just interesting to see what different kinds of levels of technology that we can have. Like we wouldn't be have to be surrounded by so much plastic and stuff, like and
Yeah, but here's the interesting thing about that. So when he went into that realm, he was actually embodying a dude, and the dude would lose his memory when Robert Monroe would like embody him. So he would have no memory of what happened while Robert Monroe came into that realm.
oh,
So Robert Monroe would be in a situation where he was like uh in the factory where that guy worked, and he didn't know what he was doing. And the girlfriend would come in, or whatever, he eventually got married to her. The girlfriend would come in and say something to him like, "Oh, these people are here to see you." And he would be like, "Oh," but he wouldn't know what to do because it was very weird. And in the end, it he drifted away from that girl because maybe because he would have encounters where he would come into that dude's body and then he would be him for a time, and he would interact with the girl, and uh then she would like look at him weird because he didn't know what she was talking about. So there was like almost like she was suspicious of him. And so like in the end they didn't end up together, and he ended up being like a sad and lonely man or something. It was just weird. It's like even in those kinds of places, like you could have just interesting things happen that weren't necessarily like feeling good. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
oh yeah, it's not all sunshine and roses.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. And I'm not describing it very well. So if you want to read or listen to the book, you can go find it.
All right. Well, shout out to the chat. Thank you guys for hanging out. More laws, more problems. That's a website. Click on the Oversharing tab. Several ways to support us there
I
financially.
think we
But
didn't read the last little bit, but go ahead.
oh, oh yeah. And we always say the best way to support us is to hang out here every Thursday when we premiere or go live. Hang out in the chat with us, and then I'll click on this so we can finish up the last little bit.
I
You know,
think we didn't. I, if we did,
let's
sorry,
see.
but I'll just read it again
No
just in case.
worries. Yeah,
All
that's
right.
fine.
So there should be another state within view so that its fowls and oh, I did. Its fowls and dogs should be heard. Yet old age, even to death, people should hold no traffic with it. All right. Sorry. Just had to
No
make
worries.
sure I read that.
It's always better to make sure. Yeah, so we have one verse left, everybody. One more. So stay tuned for that. We're really excited, and we have a couple other Sharon shared some ideas of things we're going to be talking about in that episode as well, along with that last verse. And we're probably going to share some insights that we have gained since then. So make sure to not miss that one. Subscribe if you're not subscribed to the Brandon Bonanza YouTube channel or to the Oversharing podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts. And again, morelawsmoreproblems.com is the way to support us or to find out anything about us. Click on the Oversharing tab. And one more time, shout out. Thank you guys in the chat for hanging out all the way to the end. It looks like it was about 2.5 hours.
Oh, has it been? Okay. Oops.
About, yeah, I don't have the exact. We've been on here for 2:45, 47, but not live. I can't see right now. My window's being weird.
That's okay.
Anyway, yeah, thanks everybody. So I scratched myself. All right, I'm good. What do we say to the people, Sharon?
But once you start oversharing,
Then you totally stop over Karen.
that's right.
And remember, everybody, we're not trying to tell you how to live.
Just telling you some insights that we have and let you have an informed view and make your own decisions and choices.
That's right. So, thanks everybody again for hanging out. Ciao, ciao. Have a great weekend, and we will see you next week. Take care.
Peace.
Peace.